Hey folks, this is Ben from Instaclustr. Welcome to the next episode of InstaBlinks. And with me today, we have Eamon O'Neill, who is our product lead for Ocean for Apache Spark. Eamon, thanks for joining.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. And before we get started, I'd love just to get a little bit of your background, a little bit of past experience and your role at Instaclustr and NetApp.
Okay. Yeah, so my background is I've been a software product manager for more than 10 years, specialized in digital marketing and Internet of Things business domains. And I've worked with marketing automation tools and also big data warehousing tools, and most recently at some AI startups. The common thread is I've been automating pipelines that analyze massive amounts of data. So Ocean Spark is one of the products in the NetApp portfolio, kind of combines some of the great parts of Instaclustr's products and Spot application. Awesome.
Well, given the topic of what we're talking about today, it sounds like I'm definitely talking to the right person. So I understand that Ocean for Apache Spark has introduced a new integration around Jupyter Notebooks. But before we dive into that, are you able to share a little bit about, I guess, like why are data scientists using Jupyter Notebooks? What are they? Why is it a good tool? What's kind of the exciting bit about Jupyter Notebooks themselves?
Yeah, so what it lets them do is to explore data and visualize data and analyze it, but within a collaborative web-based tool. And that's what's exciting about it, because they can, while they're slicing and dicing the data, they can do it jointly with some other data scientists, and they can document all their decisions. So as you can see I've sent you a screenshot below, the interface is kind of unique in that it allows you to combine code and data and SQL queries and some charts and math equations and explanation text all in the single document. And so for that reason, it's become an alternative, not just to software IDE environments, but also to spreadsheets most recently.
Yeah, I was going to say, this sounds like this has dramatically replaced the workflow of, sending 20 different versions of one spreadsheet around, and then a text file with a bit of SQL, and then maybe a link to, a software repository with either a bit of Python or Julia code. So it sounds like it's really allowed, that data scientist, that full workflow to be a lot easier to work on. And then you mentioned collaboratively. I guess unpick that a little bit as well.
Yeah, so you can share your notebook. You can export your notebook as HTML or as PDF, or some of our customers have actually set up a special multi-user environment for notebooks called Jupyter Hub, and then that allows multiple people to edit it simultaneously. The other things that data scientists like about notebooks is that each notebook can be version controlled in a Git repository, so they can bring this sort of software development lifecycle discipline to this. And they also like that there's a lot of open source community extensions to notebooks, especially scientific computing libraries or interactive widgets. I sent you an example there where there's an interactive slider, and as you play with that, the whole chart moves up and down. Now, just try doing that in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like, not only, the development, the exploration, the collaboration, but also the presentation element of kind of, data science, right? So I guess it solved a lot of the workflow issues, right, around, analyzing data and working with data, right? But, here at Instaclustr, we like to deal with large amounts of data. So I guess, how does Jupyter Notebooks kind of traditionally work with large amounts of data?
By itself, it wouldn't. It would be a desktop tool. But if you combine it with NetApp's big data SaaS product, Ocean for Apache Spark, you can do a lot more data. To make it simpler, I'm just going to call it Ocean Spark from now on. But so in that case, what you do is you process massive data set, petabytes of data remotely in our cloud using our product, but you interact with the results of that processing in your notebook. So in a way, we're connecting your big data cloud to your laptop.
Wow. So it essentially sounds like, you've got that same great interface that Jupyter provides, Jupyter Notebooks, but you've really unlocked it and provide the full kind of, I guess, scale of the cloud in behind that with the same easy to use interface. Is that right?
Yeah. And our Ocean Spark product eliminates the burden of infrastructure management. So apart from you just setting up Apache Spark, do it yourself, if you use our SaaS offering, it's continually optimized. So that way the data scientists can focus on writing the Spark applications to solve business problems. And we worry about making sure these applications run faster and cheaper. So we're going to lower their monthly cloud bill.
That's awesome, because that is one of the biggest complaints that I know that, FinOps people, infrastructure engineers complain about. That the data scientist, this query is running too long, it's chewing up this stuff, or they forgot to turn off this. So that's all really, really awesome news. So one of the things that the key thing here is it's about kind of wiring up Jupyter Notebooks to Spark. Now, one of the really awesome things about Spark, and I guess it's become a lot more hot in the last kind of 12 to 24 months, right, is AI, right? And whether it's predictive or generative, Spark brings a lot of great capabilities to researchers who are doing those kind of things. So how does Ocean Spark help with some of those AI, I guess, challenges that people are solving, whether it's about building pipelines, whether it's exploratory? How does that all kind of work, with this new hotness that is AI?
Yeah, so I recently have worked in a couple of very early stage AI startups, and people build a pipeline. The product managers, the software engineers, and the data scientists all contribute on something called an AI pipeline. Now, that's a series of steps that would help make predictions. Like, say, for an example, I'm going to use making predictions about network faults based on history, time series of network traffic data. So there's different stages in the pipeline we can dig into here to talk about how Ocean Spark helps at each stage. But usually the data scientist needs to visualize the result of the current stage before they can proceed to the next stage in the pipeline. So they would visualize that in Jupyter Notebook, and then they'd help move on to the next stage.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like you'd be able to, I guess, progress in that same Jupyter environment, whether it's the data exploration side of things, right? So looking at what data is available, what makes sense, proceeding then to the cleansing stage, right? And every data scientist I talk to says that's actually 90% of the workload is getting good, clean data, right? Before they get onto the fun stuff of feature engineering and other bits and pieces, right? And so it sounds like Jupyter Notebooks allow you to at least do most of that all within the same environment. Is that right?
Well, they let you see the results of it, but Ocean Spark's actually doing a lot of the work. So say for data exploration, Ocean Spark would load a huge amount of the network traffic data from, say, an Amazon S3 bucket, or we run in all the different clouds. And in order to, you need a really big data set. So it's important that Ocean Spark has enough memory to be able to load in a huge data set. And then our product has the functions built in to be able to highlight key statistics about the data set. So now the data scientist could decide whether or not this particular data set is useful. And if not, he would stop the pipeline at this stage and go look for other data. Oh, and by the way, our NetApp product is SOC 2 compliant, so we adhere to very high standards about how we handle customers' data.
So it sounds like Ocean Spark, and again, I'm not a data scientist, so this is all new and exciting to me. Yeah. So it sounds like Ocean Spark is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and the current integration we're talking about is just a bit of a nicer, easier integration for that particular interface. What are some of the other features that people should be getting excited about for Ocean Spark?
Yeah, so apart from that pipeline, I think our adaptation to cloud market dynamics. So there are a lot of different processor instances you can use, spot instances, on-demand instances, reserved instance, savings plan instances. And all of these they are different prices, but they also offer different levels of availability. And it'd be very difficult and really not in his job description, for a data scientist to be trying to decide which processor to use when. So we do that for you. So we play that spot, that market, and we make sure to get you the best price instances in your cluster, but also ones that will be highly available. So we do that trade-off between cost and stability.
Awesome. And so it's really something that data scientists shouldn't even have to think about, right? That's so far away, but is such a huge part of making sure they've still got budget in their team to keep doing the great work that they're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Ocean Spark is the combination, by the way, of two NetApp technologies. One is the Spot product, and that what that does is it auto scales resources when your data volume rises and falls. It adjusts the processor and the memory. And the second part is the Instaclustr. Under the covers, we're using Instaclustr for Kafka management of log streaming. So we stream the logs of the user's application that we're optimizing. That way we can show them where there's errors in their application and also where performance isn't so good. Now, that's an important point because we don't change the open source code of an Apache Spark application. We just make it easier to use. So, for example, Apache Spark doesn't have a great real-time UI to help a developer troubleshoot his application. So we layer, using the Instaclustr management of the streams, we layer on top a streaming UI to show him a live view of his application.
That's awesome. Well, and it's really good to I guess share that with the audience a little bit to understand how it works under the hood, right? And it is important to realize that it is all just, open source Spark under the hood, right? But Ocean for Spark, all the great stuff we're doing at Instaclustr and Spot is really allowing people to get the most out of pure upstream open source Apache Spark, which is super, super exciting. So just shifting gears a little bit back onto the notebook side of things, right? I understand that customers of Ocean Spark have for some time been using Jupyter Notebooks already, right? So I guess maybe let's unpack a little bit about the new integration and how that changes what they've already been doing, why that makes their lives a little bit easier and what it might unlock for the future.
Yeah. We have had customers hooking up to notebooks for a few years using an older technology called Jupyter Enterprise Gateway. We're now doing the integration with a newer technology called Spark Connect. It's a lot faster and it's simpler to set up. So as a byproduct, though, we're now able to hook up a lot more than just Jupyter Notebook. The Spark Connect has opened up a lot of options. You can use this technology. We can now hook up to web pages and to SQL querying tools, and to, we have one customer using it with their GitHub Actions for their pipeline. So, and people doing it with homegrown Python code. So there are now a lot more front-end clients you can put in front of a Spark application than you ever could before.
That's awesome. And that just makes everyone's lives a heck of a lot easier when it comes to doing their day-to-day work and integrating.
Yeah, and it also changes the team that can be involved. So we had one customer that when they wanted to run their database queries before, they had to have engineers package those queries up into Python code, and then only a few people could do it. But now using our Spark Connect technology, they can have their business managers just send queries directly from a data query tool that they use. Just push a button and it runs the query. They don't have to write so much Python code anymore.
Well, that's awesome, right? Because it reduces that time to insight dramatically and allows the people who need to get that information to get it when they need it, right? And to kind of speed things up on that whole pipeline. So that's awesome to hear. What's next for Ocean Spark?
So we're going to be tuning memory resources in much more sophisticated ways. Over the last year, we've helped customers to use the right amount of memory by looking at their past application runs and their configurations. And we would do things like we saw that the last few times you ran out of memory, so we're going to bump it up by a certain amount. Fairly simple rules. But now we're getting into more sophisticated ones like, well, we've noticed that you use more memory on weekends than weekdays, or on Wednesdays than Tuesdays, and also at certain times of day. So our history optimization can take into effect seasonality within the week, within the day. And so we're going to start tuning memory based on that intelligence.
Awesome. That's going to be huge for costs.
Yeah, we're also going to hook up a popular DevOps or IT tool called Prometheus. Many of our customers are using this to monitor metrics in their data, in their cloud and in their own data center. So we're going to take some of the best measurements we have about application performance and not just show them in our UI console anymore, but also export them to a Prometheus so that the DevOps managers can look at them with their own graphs and their own tools.
Wow, that's awesome, right? And you know, it really helps that bottom line of the teams using these particular tools. So I'm super excited to see what else comes out of the skunkworks for Ocean for Spark.
One more is around machine learning model deployment. So we talked about how we do a lot of the preparation work for machine learning. So helping you get the data ready and then do the testing. But once you've got a model going, and this is not coming next week, Grant, this is further out, but we're looking at ways to help you serve those models in production, because Instaclustr is all about making things that work well in the lab work well at scale in production.
Yeah, no, we're super excited about, you know, what we can do when it comes to you know, model deployment, inference serving, as well as continuous training. So I'm super happy to hear that you guys are working hard on this. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Eamon. It's been really exciting to hear about this new Jupyter integration, and it sounds like it's going to make a bunch of lives a lot easier. Not just on the Jupyter side of things, but also, you know, those Spark Connect integration stories as well. That's really going to unlock a bunch more use cases with this product. So again, thanks so much for your time, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Awesome.